Excellent. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to the CX Community of Practice virtual networking discussion. Welcome in. We'll give everyone a couple moments to join us here, get your bearings virtually. We do have a little icebreaker to get us started today. So whoever's here, we want to hear how you are celebrating Public Service Recognition Week. And first of all, happy Public Service Recognition Week to everybody. It's one of our favorite weeks here at GovLoop. Um, so yes, feel free to share in the chat. I hope you all are doing something nice for yourselves this week. Renee, do you have any Public Service Recognition Week plans?
I have to admit, I had never even heard of it until you mentioned it a few minutes ago. I wrote it down to see what we can throw together real quick. I'd like to do
Oh,
something like that for our staff.
oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to introduce you to it. I'm so excited. We have a couple things going on here at GovLoop. We have an e-card that you can send to colleagues, coworkers, anyone who works in public service, just saying thank you and happy Public Service Recognition Week. I'll have to send you all the links.
That would
Um,
be great.
yeah, we really love it. It's a really nice campaign here. So um, I will definitely share that with you. Okay, 401, we can get going here. Like I said, welcome into the CX Community of Practice virtual networking discussion. Today we're going to be talking about what you need to know about bots in CX. So this is quite a timely conversation we're going to have. I feel like I see bots several times a day during my interactions online. So we're excited to get going. My name's Leah Anderson. I'm the digital marketing director here at GovLoop. I'm standing in for Candace today, so if you're expecting to see her, my name's Leah instead. But I'm joined here today by Renee Murray as our featured speaker. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
We're thrilled to hear from you today. So you're the e-government program lead at the Mississippi Department of Information Technology Services. In your own words, can you give us a brief overview of what you're working on or sort of your experience in that organization?
Sure. I've been here at ITS, Mississippi Department of Information Technology Services, for 27 years. I started out in the Strategic Services Division, and in that division, our job was to look at the new and exciting things that could be used to move government forward. And believe it or not, the internet, websites, electronic government was my first project I worked on here at ITS. So in 1998, we started out with the very first Mississippi.gov that there was. We built our citizen experience from the ground up, kind of. And I've stayed involved in that program for the entire time I've been here at ITS. I've got a few other jobs. I manage our vendor contract team. So we have several statewide contracts that are outsourced, where services are outsourced to vendors, or procurement instruments that our customers can reuse with limited involvement from ITS, and I manage the team that oversees those. But electronic government has been with me from the beginning. We started out trying to convince people, state agencies, why they wanted to have a website,
Mhm.
and then tried to teach them what services they could and should move online. And then we just continue to work to enhance that. We started out with one state website and a handful of state agency websites, and now we have over 400 services online. So we've done quite a bit.
That's amazing. That growth is so amazing. That's really interesting. When you started, did you know that's the trajectory? What was the timing of it? Like, did you know things were heading digital, or did it all kind of happen once you were already in the role?
Well, we had an inkling, but the internet was very new. That's so weird to say now, but
Yeah.
but it was. We all had email accounts, and that was still relatively new, but nothing like the online services that we had now. But we had an inkling of what it could be, and with our state being as rural as it is. And not having much money to work with in government, it was important that we look at those at a tool like that
Mhm.
and find ways to make it help us deliver government to citizens. We were lucky that we had some forward-thinking leadership that wanted us to really see what was out there and take advantage of it.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Well, we're really excited to get more of your insights and expertise today as it relates to bots. So we can get right into it because we've got plenty to cover here. But usually for these conversations, we like to start broad and have a nice foundation for conversation. So to begin, can you talk to us about why chatbots are an important tool now in the CX toolbox? Like, how do you view them as useful tools?
So when you're in government all day, every day, you know all the acronyms, you know all the things to say, you know what agencies do what things, but a lot of our citizens don't.
Hmm.
They need some help getting where they need to get. They need to know where to go and who to go to get the help that they need. So that usually involves a person. Right. Well, people have bad days. They get busy. They can't answer the phone. They can only talk to one person at a time. Their email inboxes get backlogged. They forget to not use acronyms and explain everything. But bots don't. Bots are available 24/7. They're always in a good mood. They always are able to explain what ITS means, or um, they're able to meet the customers where they are. We've always kept the citizen at the center of our of any strategy that we move forward. We wanted to meet the citizen where they were and lead them to where they needed to go or help them get there. And bots are a great way to do that. Meet them right where they are, if it's in the middle of the night or it's on a Saturday morning, or it's when your receptionist is busy with another call. She's there, Missy's there, she's in a good mood. And another thing that bots allow us to do is break down lots of information, lots of complex things into bite-sized chunks, and to deliver those one at a time instead of just as a person who's in a hurry might be. You might jump from A to D and skip B and C, which is important to a citizen, and bots won't do that.
Yeah, that's so true now that you mention it. They're really good at just talking you through where you need to go. Because I think that's part of it too. Sometimes you don't even know exactly which question you should be asking, but they can really help you kind of suss that out. So,
Right, that's right. And it allows us to, it allows you to take your valuable people who would be answering the phone or answering that email and do other things, answer harder questions that maybe you don't want your bot to handle. It allows, it's not that you're replacing them, you're just allowing them to do more important things. Not that answering questions isn't important either,
yeah.
but it just frees them up to do more valuable things with their time.
Yeah, higher level thinking, right?
Right.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned Missy. I heard I heard her name.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about Missy. Mississippi was an early adopter of this chatbot technology. So yeah, let's talk about all things Missy. What prompted your agency to start working with that? And as you kind of give us a little bit of the history around Missy, I'll pull her up so we can all see
All
what she
right.
looks
So we did launch the first iteration of Missy in 2017. And for all the reasons I said, it was a good idea to have a chatbot. Our budget in Mississippi, our IT budgets are not centralized. So every agency has their own budget. So who owns Mississippi.gov? Who owns the state website? Who owns the delivery of the services that Missy delivers? And that landed with a couple of agencies, but primarily ITS is a technology agency. And so we had to look for ways to allow us to deliver more services with less budget. And we
like.
saw the chatbot technology as a way to do that. Again, all the same things I said before, 24/7 access and the ability to have consistent answers in the right way. You know, uh, knowing you mentioned knowing what to ask is sometimes difficult. So if you move to Mississippi and you want to know where the DMV is, you're going to have a really hard time because we don't have one of those. So
Mm,
a citizen needs somebody to ask the questions. Oh, you want your driver's license? Let me take you to our Department of Public Safety. That's what we call that here. Um, there needs to be a bridge that takes the citizen from where they are to where they need to be. And we thought this technology would help us do that a lot, be that tour guide to take them where they need to go. We wanted one central place that we could train our citizens to always come to, and we wanted
Mhm.
Mississippi.gov to be that. Um, and Missy just seems like a natural next step, to be that bridge to help them figure out what it is they're actually looking for.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Is this a good prompt to ask Missy, where do I get my driver's license?
Absolutely.
Let's see her in action. Oh, look at this. She's even using emojis. I can help you with that. What are you looking for specifically? Oh my gosh.
So it
Mm.
took us some time to get here. We'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but we wanted to start out very small and just answer the basic questions. Um, we looked at our analytics. We looked at where people were coming to in our site and where they were going, where they were leaving us to go to. So what information were they trying to find? And we wanted to build out those prompts for Missy first. So she did not have any AI, does not have any AI right now, not yet anyway.
Mhm.
But we had to teach her the prompts to answer these questions. And we used our analytics as a way to train what we wanted her to say.
Right, that makes a lot of sense strategy wise to go that way. Um, So, with Mississippi being an early adopter of the chatbots, when you were all creating the plan here, was there any other sort of case studies you looked to, or was it really starting from scratch?
At that point, there weren't really any other states we knew of that had a bot. There were a few that were working on it. One
Mhm.
beat us to launch, I think. But we looked at a lot of banks. A lot of banks had bots in place, and we did do research. That's a very a big piece of doing anything with the citizen experience, I think, is looking to see what's out there because citizens expect, and rightly so, and deserve at least some level of what they get in the private sector and when they come to government. And your citizens will have a better experience if you believe that and always keep that in mind. So we did do some research, but mostly it was in the private sector. There wasn't a lot of government involvement at that time.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense too. Kind of picking, choosing what things you like when you're experiencing the bots yourself. That's a good strategy. I do want to remind everyone on too, you're welcome to put some questions or comments into the chat here. We'll try to get to them as they come through. So just don't forget about that, please. All right, let's get back to our questions here. Um, Back to Missy, of course. So, how has Missy evolved over the years? What features have you improved on, expanded on? How has she changed? And it's really interesting what you're saying, working from the analytics in the beginning to know where to start and which prompts to lead with. I'm curious also how that has changed over time.
The basic premise is really still the same. It's very iterative.
Hmm.
We take what we learn on social media, what we learn from user surveys, and what we learn from our analytics to find where the points are and what our citizens are looking for, so that we can again meet them where they are and help them get where they need to be. We started out really small with Missy, and this was a place where our developers had to work with me to tell me to go slowly and bite off manageable tasks, not expect Missy to know everything out of the gate, but rather
Hmm.
to deliver excellence in what she did know. So she better know who the governor is. She better know
Yeah.
who what our state symbols are. Need
Hmm.
to tell people what to do in case of an emergency. Um, Need to tell people how to get their driver's license, where to pay their taxes, things like that, and make sure that all of those answers are correct and well delivered. Um, and then as we got better at that, we trained her on additional phrases and kind of broadened out what she did. In the early days, there were multiple times a day that we were going into back end of Missy and teaching her phrases that she missed. Like when we still do regularly look at any interactions that the customer rates as less than satisfactory or didn't quite meet their expectations, so that we can then use that to teach Missy what she didn't know, so that perhaps next time she can answer that question a little bit better. And now we still do that regularly. It's not quite daily anymore, but we still do that regularly. And so with that cycle, Missy really can evolve every day. And
Mhm.
as we got more and more stuff that Missy was looking at and that she was conversant in, we started adding the little tags you saw at the bottom, the little prompts that were suggested questions based on what they had already said. That was an evolution that we made. We moved her from the platform she originated on to another platform that allowed her to answer questions a little bit more quickly and allowed us to broaden the area of data that she looked at, allowed us to associate more things, like to take two prompts that came in from citizens but actually led to the same answer. Like the best example of that is the DMV. If you ask Missy right now where the DMV is, she'll take you to our Department of Public Safety without any hesitation, because we were able to link those, and that
Mm.
platform move allowed us to do that. Missy also got more conversational. We tried to give her some manners. We thought, as a hospitality state, it was important that she says please and thank you. So we worked that in a little bit somewhere along the way. And we are looking to move her platform one more time to one that, and that's going to happen in the very near future, that's going to allow us to bring in some AI tools and hopefully look across all of the ms.gov domain at information that's already published, and maybe learn some of her own answers instead of us having to teach her everything, that she can learn some of her own answers based on what she already finds published on other agency websites.
Yeah, wow, that's the next phase for Missy here with some AI components. That's really interesting. One thing I do want to follow up with you on, we were talking about accuracy, and I think that's a big thing right now with bots and with AI is the information accurate? Are the answers accurate? Um, because if they're not, then that's potentially going to erode the trust that we're building,
Right.
right? So it's such an important piece of that CX puzzle. So I'm just curious if you could speak to that accuracy piece again. I know you mentioned you're retraining, sort of reteaching where she's made mistakes, but how cumbersome is that process? You said you don't have to do it daily anymore, but in terms of correcting and making sure that the right information is getting out there,
Right.
I think
The
about
way
that.
our tool works, it flags for us any interaction that the customer says was not handled satisfactory, or they didn't get the information that they needed. And we regularly do polls of our users who register with their My Mississippi account. And we also will bring in people to do it for us, to have interactions so that we can get real-time feedback. But you go into the back door of Missy and you're able to look at those responses and then offer suggestions and make connections that she didn't make on her own, that will hopefully provide a different result next time. And then we'll go in and ask the question again and see where we get.
Yeah.
You have to be involved, whether you have a partner doing it or whether you're doing it in-house yourself. You still have to be involved to make sure it's always accurate. And apologize when she doesn't know the answer. Again, there's the manner. Sorry, I don't know that just yet, but I'm working on it. And we've all had interactions with bots that were less than satisfactory. And I'm sure that people have that with Missy as well. But the thing is to just deliver what you deliver as with as much accuracy as you can, and keep your eye on it so that it doesn't go too far south before you can fix it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So she needs supervision. It
She
sounds
does. She
needs
does.
supervision.
She
She
does.
sounds wonderful, but yeah, that note of supervising, checking on the answers, it's not one and done forever. See you in 6 months. It's really involved process to make sure that, she's staying accurate. So,
Right. I actually have a task that pops up in my Microsoft To Do to go out and ask Missy a question every so often just to make sure I know what it's like to talk with Missy. Anytime there's an election, I make sure that we go out there and make sure we've changed and updated everything to point to the right stuff as
okay,
well.
nice. Well, I might check in with Missy too, just to keep her.
Appreciate it.
Uh, so thanks for sharing all of that. It is really interesting, the kind of approach to keep these bots going in the right direction. But now, kind of the converse of that, looking back, are there any maybe mistakes top of mind that you can think of or things to avoid for other folks, just getting started with bots?
So, um, one thing that I'll say is that whenever you implement a bot, I think this is really true in any kind of website or online service. Sometimes your first impression can be off. And if your developers have told you that this is important and your stakeholders have said that this is great, but it doesn't quite sit right with you, let it settle before you do make any rash judgments. Our iteration of Missy that has won us the very most awards, my first reaction was, oh, I'm not sure that that's something that I like, but it was
Mhm.
what our citizens expected and it met them where they needed to be. So I kind of had to move myself out of the picture. So yeah, while you have to move fast and you have to be able to adapt, you also sometimes need to just sit with things and give them a minute to
Mhm.
see how things are going to settle out. Mentioned Missy's personality. That's one where I had to push back at the developers and think that, okay, so she's from the hospitality state. She needs to be nice.
Mhm.
I do think it's important that you provide multiple ways to get to the same information and
Mhm.
multiple prompts that would allow you to get to the same information. At first, we may have been a little one and done.
Mhm.
Some of that too was because we were trying to start small. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think that's something that you can learn is to always look for a different way that someone might be referring to something. The DMV is my go-to example there because it would have never occurred to me to put anything about a DMV on Missy because we don't have that. But people who move to Mississippi are looking for that. And so it's important to solicit feedback. It's important to know that one and done is not always going to work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The DMV example is just such a good example of that. Of like just you just have to anticipate from someone else's point of view what the information they're looking for. It almost sounds a lot like SEO strategies too. You have to find what your keywords are for people looking for the information they need. So I can see some parallels there too. That's really
Right.
interesting.
There's a good bit of work on the front end to figure all that stuff out. I think
Mhm.
AI is going to make that easier.
Yeah. I can see that. That's a good point. We do have a question from Margaret that I will pitch over to you here. So Margaret's saying, is Missy patient with clients, which maybe also users? Because I've noticed that with most chats, will say AI is never patient with clients, especially if the question is rather long or not so clear.
Yeah. I would say that she's not completely AI yet. I hope that when she doesn't have AI yet. It's what we teach her is all she knows right now. Um, we have tried to make her be patient, and one
Mhm.
of the ways that we did that is putting those suggested prompts
Mhm.
on the questions, and that does several things. It allows the citizen to use the language that Missy knows. If they just glance at those, they start seeing the same kinds of keywords. And we
Mhm.
try to learn also from what the customer asks us so that we can on the back end make those associations between where we see that they wanted to go and where they actually ended up. I hope she is patient. We want her to have manners and be patient. We would appreciate any feedback that y'all can give us on how you think she's doing. But that is something that we do think about, and I'm hoping that that will get better with AI, because that it will make some of those connections that we can't make, I think.
Yeah, and maybe even possibly anticipate some of those connections too and make your job a little bit easier. But yeah, I can understand. I think she's lovely. I love the inclusion of the emoji. I think it's just, what people are used to seeing out there, and it really does soften language. So thank you for sharing. And Margaret, thank you for the question. Appreciate it. So we'll move right along. This half an hour always goes by quickly, but I do want to ask what advice you might have sort of top of your mind here for folks that are considering getting started with bots, just starting in this space?
I think starting small is important. Even though they had to convince me that that was the right move, it was the right move.
Mhm.
You mentioned this in one of your questions, but you don't want to make a wrong move, because it's harder to get a bad taste out of your mouth once it's there than it is to start off on the right foot. So start small and do what you do with excellence. Use the tools that you have, use the information that you have. Don't be afraid of AI. We're all afraid of AI. As I say that, I'm trying to breathe and I can feel my heart beating hard, because it is kind of scary, but don't
Mhm.
be afraid to take that first step, but also spend time testing it, spend
Mhm.
time with it, make sure that you know what you're putting out there. As you use the tool and the technology, just keep working to make it better, and visit other sites to see what's out there. Chatbots are everywhere now. AI is everywhere now. So make sure that you go out and look and see. Sometimes it's easier to see um, what you like when you see it, or what you don't like when you see it, than it is to dream up what you want it to look like. So do some research ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Being on the marketing side myself, this is sort of what we do all the time, see what other people are doing, even how folks are presenting different messages. But bots kind of fall a little bit into, marketing messaging too. And I think it is really interesting seeing what you're talking about, different phrasing, the different personalities of the bots, like figuring out what's right for your organization that way is, I think it's the best way to kind of get a good handle on what people are doing out there. And thankfully, we do have so many use cases now of bots. It's all over the place. So, all right. Well, we're about to wrap up here, but what are two takeaways you'd like to leave everyone with today?
One I kind of mentioned in my comments just a second ago, but don't be afraid to try something new.
Mhm.
There's always a chance that there's something out there that can help you wherever you are, whether you're the most advanced, technologically advanced state, or whether you're where we were with trying to convince people to have websites way back in the old days. There's a chance there's something out there that can help. And then look for partners that are good at what you want to do, and don't be afraid to lean on them and form partnerships with them. Find one that you can trust, share information with them, treat them like a partner, not a vendor. Give them some runway, but hold them accountable for what they deliver. Um, Let them help you, and then make sure they do what it is you've hired them to do. But don't be afraid to get a good partnership going.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time, Renee. I think this is such an interesting topic. I just want to remind everyone on the call with us today, this is the purpose of the group. We want you all to hear from each other. So if you have more questions about a bot journey, something somebody else is doing with bots, this is the place for that. So we have that LinkedIn group. If you have any other lingering questions, please post them there. But Renee, I feel really lucky to be able to hear from your perspective about bots, considering, this breadth of experience you have on the technology side in government. So I really appreciate your time today. It was super interesting. Thanks for letting me join you last minute. But again, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right, before we officially part today, I just want to remind everyone we do have another monthly discussion coming up in June where we're going to be talking about how to get better input during policy making and planning, which I think there's probably a bot angle there too to get input here. But again, thank you everyone for your time on the call here. Again, thank you, Renee, and happy Public Service Recognition Week, everyone. We thank you for all your hard work. We'll talk soon.